Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I do watch the True Detectives of the world, which I
Yeah.
still was hoping there'd be some weird supernatural element at the end of the show. I thought that's what they were leading up to.
They did.
They didn't.
Huh? What are you talking about?
True Detective?
It was
The final, the entire final sequence was completely supernatural.
No, that was all
about?
an extension of all the drugs that were in his brain. He was having those weird visions. I don't think it was actually.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about? I
I'm
don't know what
talking
you're talking
about
about.
the most disappointing.
He went out to a little cave and found the man, and then
But he saw that
killed him.
weird spiraling. That weird spiraling universe is sort of a reference to the I believe
Right.
just all the lore around Carcosa and like throughout throughout literary history,
Right.
Because it dates back to the 19th century. Like they're kind of the constant references in that show to this old story that keeps getting retold. But I read that as like not. Because I think if there were something supernatural, they would have paid it off more. Because now they're just scrapping and starting over, so they're not going to expand on that. I think it was just because he had those weird visions throughout.
Were
the
you
show.
disappointed in that final episode?
Yeah, I was. Like, I felt like
Yeah, it was 10 episodes of building up to
this
a
insane.
big,
And all of a sudden, it was just like they just shoot him in the head, and they're like, now they're in the hospital making jokes. You know, like that was the.
And also that he believes that the light is winning, right? Wasn't that like one of the final lines? That, like good is triumphing over evil.
Yeah,
but the series didn't seem
not
to
tell that
dictate
story.
that.
Lots of people died.
Yeah. And I don't know. I liked him in his dark place.
To me, I thought the show was building to something really big, but it ended like the end of a procedural,
Right?
Like the end of an episode of just a regular procedural CSI type
Right.
show.
Sort of like Serial without even an ending.
yeah. Exactly. Right.
So it's like all of that and also not ending.
Right.
Just no closure. The same thing.
Yeah, Serial was a big. Oh, God, it was entertaining many times, but there were a lot of times where I was listening to it and I was like, I'm going to stick this out because I've spent so many hours with it already. I may as well see what happens at the end. And then at 2 episodes towards the end, I was like, this is not going to end well for me. And
But were people that upset with the first Paradise Lost documentary when there was they didn't know who killed him? They didn't know, with the West Memphis 3 documentary.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was 15 years and 3 documentaries worth until they actually got somewhat of an ending. And they're still they're not sure who killed those kids.
Yeah.
So it's very similar.
I would argue that is in many ways a better story though.
Yeah, well, there's
more
more at stake. I mean,
story.
if Serial had delved into the racial implications of that town, like how in Paradise Lost they talked about against the occult and death metal and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
It's just super demonstrative of what we need in storytelling. Like it's just simply not entertainment alone. We need closure, which I guess brings some level of solace to the fact that we have no closure about our own lives when it ends, and we want to know that there's
go to heaven. Our Lord Jesus Christ. What are you talking about?
Some people have closure, and that's wonderful for you.
That's so weird you said that.
It is. You know, this is like a
weird.
super Christian podcast, right?
Oh man.
Well, it's funny that you say that because now this is our segment called Pray On, and we're just going to pray on stuff.
Damn, tell the good.
Pray on.
Yeah, pray on. Yeah.
But yeah, like that I don't know, that told me a lot about myself and what I need out of a story or what I need out of entertainment, which is, look, it passed the time while I was sitting in traffic and I was riveted by it for hours. And yet I came out of it feeling like I had wasted my time. But meanwhile, I enjoyed it almost all the way through that.
Because there's an open loop in your brain that wants to be able to resolve that. And I think, I've said this a million times, but I think it's one of the greatest gifts that Vince Gilligan gave the Breaking Bad fans was, here is the ending in a bow, and here is what happens. And I think, with stuff like True Detective or things that I think showrunners, writers tend to manipulate the audience by kind of presenting what seem to be outlandish premises, and so you go, okay, I'm on board. This feels weird, and I'd love to see how you wrap this up. And then they just get to the end and they realize, oh yeah, well, it's I think I was writing ahead of myself. It's actually kind of hard. I can't possibly wrap up all this crazy stuff.
Yeah,
they kind of write weird for the sake of weird because that's intriguing.
Yeah,
but without sticking the landing at the end and going, here because that's very hard to do.
It's very hard. Yeah, no, it is.
If you don't know exactly, if you don't exactly have a way to sort of tie up every loose end, and but
I know what you're talking. You're talking about you're talking about more an innate human being's desire for there to be a neat ending,
because it brings us some level of comfort. Because we don't have that in our lives.
Yeah, right. No, we don't. Yeah, exactly. We don't know how it ends.
What about Boyhood? What did you guys think about Boyhood? Did you even see it?
I love Boyhood.
I have not seen it yet.
Yeah. Well, it's very much it's just like it's one of those kind of slice of life Linklater movies where just like stuff happens and then it's over.
Well, by the way, I think certain things lend themselves.
I would say nothing really happens and then it's over.
Yeah, nothing really happens, but because it's slice of life, but it does end because the story is of this person's boyhood. His boyhood ends and then he moves on to something else.
That's true.
I don't think I need finality to someone's life. I just need finality to the story that's being told.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Boyhood didn't really set anything up during the movie. There wasn't really much to tie up at the end.
Very true.
Sort of like, oh, he's living, and now the credits. But
takes drugs in the desert, becomes a man.
That's right. But
like the Game of Thrones guys are kind of right in the middle of that right now, which is that George hasn't finished the books. He hasn't finished the book, and they're careening towards a season in which they're going to have to write without really knowing, because George knows but hasn't written it yet, and so. They're writing these stories without knowing exactly what's going to happen at the end.
They're going to cross an event horizon, or they're going to get ahead of the. They're going to get ahead.
They're getting really close.
Yeah, which is sort of why. That's why I think it was very smart for Walking Dead Day One to be like it's a slightly different universe than the comics. So don't because it allows them to have two distinct entities.
And Game of Thrones does that too, where they'll pull the rug out in certain storylines and certain characters. But it stays a little bit more true than I think Walking Dead does.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way with you about True Detective, where I did enjoy the ride. I enjoyed the process. I just really... my expectations were in one direction. And then at the end, I was like, well, no, they're just... Everything's just... It's fine. Everything's just fine. Like this guy, the whole...
What the fuck?
Far worse, however, though, if they just never found the guy and there was no conclusion whatsoever, like in Serial. You know what I mean? Then, because at least it ended.
But I don't... I think the other problem... And then you really only get barely a glimpse of the guy... And he's doing weird accents, and you're like, he's crazy, or is it? And I don't know. Like, I wanted there to be.
He was like the boss at the end of a level on a video game. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it came off to me. It's like, oh, that's the weird big guy that you gotta chop.
He throws you down and goes like, ha 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 ha, and then like you have to hit him 3 times.
And while he's laughing, that's when you.
That's when you get the. Yeah. He was King Hippo.
King Hippo. He's basically King Hippo.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to kind of delve more into what he was about and how and it just sort of,
ends.
It just ends. Yeah.
On a very strange note.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about like the Sopranos? Did you like that ending?
No. I don't like endings where they go.
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah. I don't like endings where they just kind of go,
it's up to you.
Up to you. Like, no, it's not up to me. You're the fucking writer. It's up to you. Don't, I feel like that's a cop-out. Like you cop out when you're writing a book report and you didn't read the whole book, and so you end your book report going, if you want to find out what happens, read the book, instead of just going, this is the definitive. I feel like because it's very hard to wrap things up in a satisfying way, and so then I feel like the default is like, just make it weird and open-ended, and then people will assign whatever they want to it.
I think they did an incredible job of kind of giving you the same feeling that he would have, of just kind of not knowing where he stands or if he's going to get killed right away.
I don't want that feeling.
That's why you never got into a life of crime.
Thinking about
that was a taste.
Yeah. But they do set that up. They set up at one point in the series is like the 1 second
the episode right before.
Yeah, right.
The second to last episode.
He says
Bobby says, you won't know when it's coming. It'll just be one day you're having dinner with your family, the next minute you're dead.
But didn't the writer
so there you go. So you know what happens.
But he said I think the writer was it Chase?
Mm-hmm. David Chase, yeah.
Yeah. I thought he said in an interview recently that Tony Soprano does not die. He did. He came out and flat out said like, "Oh yeah, he doesn't die right there."
I haven't read.
You're shaking your head.
I don't buy that for a second.
He's so fucking mad when he said that.
Yeah.
Like, just because to me, I'm.
No, just pointing it at you.
No, Kyle, get it.
I don't know. I take the opposite sort of approach to endings. Like, I really like the True Detective one. I felt like was a compromise because, like, I kind of like the existential way things end. Like, I like Cormac McCarthy a lot, where he's sort of like you're ruminating on this thing that like life, like you were saying with like life and death, and the way you go is that you want that satisfaction, but you're not getting that satisfaction because neither the characters. Because I like a more true to life psychological approach to narrative, and I think that in something like True Detective, what I kind of had to compromise and take out of it in that last sequence in the hospital is like in life you have these traumas that lead you to these like existential crises about stuff, but you do have these tiny moments where you move on and talk to your family and do other stuff, and it's not resolved and none of it's going to go, but you still have to like learn how the light winning is like, oh, that's right, I can't singularly focus on this thing because it's ultimately kind of meaningless in the long run.
Yeah, but I don't. But that that to me is an art project. Like I feel like that's like.
But that's what making art is.
I don't think so. I hear what you're saying, but I think it's different than watching like The Wall, where you're like, oh, I'm supposed to feel all these weird things because that's what he's going through. Like, True Detective does not lead you down that path.
See, I totally saw that.
It leads you down a procedural path.
But I always thought breaking down the concept of like a procedural thing into the context of having you do this existential thought, where it's like the thing they're focusing on is it's a two-hander, it's a magic trick, where they've shown you that what you thought programmed by television and culture was not what they were trying to show you the whole time.
Well, I'm kind of with you on that.
Do you also feel like that, first of all, Breaking Bad is probably one of, if not the greatest series in television, right? I loved Breaking Bad. I loved every second of it, and I loved the finale. But afterwards, I felt like that was great. It was totally satisfying. And I walked away, and I haven't really thought about it since because I feel like it closed that loop, and that's done. I'm done with that now. But I've thought about The Sopranos, once every few months for the past few years because it feels like it's still ruminating in my brain, sort of what you were talking about.
Still fucks with you.
It still fucks with me. And I feel like there's
something to that.
And whether or not I want it or not is irrelevant because it's what they did.
Yeah. And that's what you were saying about Boyhood, where it's like, at first you didn't like it, and then like, but you kept on thinking about it. And isn't that something that like a good entertainment piece should bring you? Just
I don't know. What's
all this is coming back around to.
I got too many things in real life to think about. I don't have time to be like, where'd they go after the desert? Like, I don't have energy. I have work, and I just want shit wrapped up. Yeah, my brain is too feeble to be ruminating on things forever. Like if
every single series you watched like ended that way, you'd have the ghosts of all these things like weighing you down.
Yeah, it'd be like Tony Soprano in a bar with Al Swearingen, They'd be in Cheers together. You know what I mean? Like it's just all. Yeah.
But see that now. This is fascinating because this does not jive with the rest of your life, where you have willfully discourage yourself from taking those things that bring you instant gratification, whatever it's the alcohol or cigarettes or caffeine or whatever. You're in it for the long haul, for the more holistic experience of life, right? So couldn't your art be consumed in the same way?
I like, by the way, a true storyteller, Rob McElhenney, bringing things back around from the very beginning to tie it up in a bow at the very end.
That's my cue to have them say it's over and we can get the fuck out.
Yeah. I would say, and that was very skillfully done. I would say that some things I enjoy that, but a lot of times with television, for me, I just kind of need it to be a little one-dimensional. I need it to be a little more one-dimensional. It doesn't have to bleed into my life as much. If I know that's going to be an experience going in, then I'm okay with it. But I don't like being surprised by it at the end and feeling like my expectations were. Because in some cases, I feel like it can be intentional. And in other cases, I sort of feel like it's the writer just kind of copping out because it's very difficult to tie up the million loose ends that they released throughout the life of a series because they had to keep intriguing people to watch the show, so they had to write weirder and weirder and weirder, and then by the end they're like, well, I can't fucking
just sort of ends.
Yeah, I think some of it's a little Emperor's New Clothes and a little less like, no man, they're being artistic. In some cases I think that's the case, but I do agree with your point about Breaking Bad though. Like it's the closed loop and you're like, yeah, I got it. Yeah. It's all done. Yeah.